Alright, here we are. The home stretch. Just one more fighter left before the end of the Fighters Pass. So far we've had Min Min, Steve, Sephiroth, Pyra, and Kazuya. So now that there's only one spot left, I went through as much Smash speculation as I could find, and I decided to make a list of the top prospects on other people's lists, as well as a little bit of my own Smash speculation thrown in as well. So this means that in terms of Smash speculation, these right here are the top 37 prospects. So just imagine that out of everyone that could have been in Smash, these are the top 37 left in most people's speculation, but this is also including my own. So before I get too into this, let me just give you a little bit of warning. So most of these characters are going to fall into either the unlikely or dead categories. So if you're really hoping for one of the characters on this list to get into Smash, I'd recommend either being open to the possibility of your character not getting in, or just clicking off of the video entirely. Like, my guess is that the final fighter isn't going to be any of these 37 characters, but these are the ones that I see the most of, so no one is off the table. One last thing, I'm going to be looking at these characters through the eyes of a business, not just how popular they are, or like how many people are asking for them or anything like that. I might throw in some things that may seem like I'm doing some kind of mental gymnastics in order to validate my point, but I promise that these are things that Nintendo and Sakurai would think about when selecting these characters. I promise. So, last chance to click away before I tell you why your favorite character won't get in. And I do mean that with love, like, it's a business, it's nothing personal. Anyway, going once, going twice. Okay, let's get started. So the first character that I'm going to bring up is actually the character that I personally want the most. And that would be Sora. There we are. So this is probably going to sound like a hot take right off the bat, but I would be lying if I didn't at least bring it up. If Sora doesn't turn out to be the final fighter, then no matter who we end up getting is going to be a disappointment. I'm not saying the last fighter won't be fun, I'm not saying the last fighter won't be a cool choice, and I'm definitely not saying that the last fighter won't be hype. I'm just saying that Smash Ultimate wouldn't feel complete. It wouldn't really be everyone is here as much as it could have been. Forget that Sora is the most requested character in the world. Kingdom Hearts is the biggest JRPG that doesn't have any representation in Smash, and if we've learned anything about Smash is that they love some JRPGs. Sora has a worldwide presence unlike any other character you could possibly choose from. And the fact that we have Cloud and Sephiroth shows us that Nintendo already has a pretty close connection with Tetsuya Nomura. So the real question now is, where would I rank Sora? I'm going to say that he's unlikely. And there are lots of reasons for this. The biggest being the fact that Sephiroth was released like 3 fighters ago. I know that Sora and Sephiroth are extremely different in just about every way possible, but the fact that they're in the same game together makes seeing Sora sort of like a pipe dream to me. If I'm being honest, it just doesn't seem too realistic, at least for me right now. Plus, I don't even know how true this is, don't quote me on this, but I think I've heard Sakurai talk about how it would be kind of weird to add Sora without his Disney pals like Donald and Goofy. But if that's the case, just add Roxas. You've already shown us that the main character doesn't need to be the one to represent the franchise as a whole. I feel like I'm getting my hopes up too much, so I'll just end it right there. Sora to me is just unlikely. And next up we have the character who I've seen actually the most of since Kazuya was revealed, and that would be Master Chief. Now, where do I think that Master Chief falls in? Dead. I think Master Chief has basically no chance of getting in. He would be cool, there's no doubt about that. I would love to see a first-person shooter rep in Smash, but his time has come and gone. This is the character in the biggest fighting game. Like, we're talking about the last fighter in the biggest fighting game in the history of fighting games. Do you really think Sakurai is going to slap his own Japanese audience in the face by giving them a Western character that half of them have never even heard of? They had their chance to give half the world a Western character at E3 if they had done a double reveal. Now all the pressure falls on this last fighter. I still think they should have revealed both characters at E3 and just spaced them out, just so there wouldn't be all this expectation for the last fighter. But not only was there only one fighter revealed, now there's even more pressure placed on this last fighter after Sakurai said that this one would take more time to develop than the other ones. So even if nobody wants to admit it, the last fighter has way more expectations on it than any other character in fighting game history. Which is yet another reason why I still hope it's Sora. I still think Sora is the only character who could actually fulfill all that expectation. But again, we're going to move off Sora for a little bit. Now, I'm not going to waste any more time. I keep saying that Sora is the only character who could meet all these expectations, but what about Crash Bandicoot? Where would I put him? As for Crash, I would put him under... Where's Crash? Here you are. Unlikely. Now, by the way, before I get any further into this, they're in no particular order, like the ones on the left and the ones on the right. They're, it's not one has more likely a chance than the other. But I think that if there was a time to release Crash, it would have been E3. I don't know if this is true, but I heard that the last character is going to be announced at the Tokyo Game Show on September 30th. But I don't know that for sure. Like, my sources could be wrong on that one. If the last reveal happens in Japan, you'd better stinking believe that it's going to be a Japanese character. I know that Crash still has a Japanese audience, but he's still not as popular as most speculation lists would have you believe. Plus, Activision can be hard to work with sometimes. In case you didn't know, Activision is, it causes headaches for people sometimes. Now, I can already hear, but Red, he's an iconic character for the PlayStation. There was even a commercial where he yelled at Nintendo. Okay? One commercial does not a mascot make. Does anyone remember those old Del Taco commercials where Dan would put the Del Taco logo over the Taco Bell's corporate office? Like, Dan was the original Flo from Progressive. Dan was the original Jake from State Farm. Yet who remembers him? I get it. Crash Bandicoot was a really popular game for the PS1 when it first came out, but another game that was even more popular than Crash Bandicoot on the PS1? Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone. I'm not making that up, go look it up for yourself. Like, if we're not even going by sales, like, let's say, okay, that game got more sales, but it doesn't mean it was a better game. I mean, Crash is more iconic. What about Spyro? I mean, Spyro makes just as much sense as Crash, but I rarely see him on any speculation lists. Plus, if I'm being honest, I'm gonna make people mad when I say this. I'm sorry, I'm apologizing ahead of time, but if I'm being honest, it kind of feels like people just want Crash because everyone else says they want Crash. It's like, oh, I played that game growing up. I never made it past the first level, but I had fond memories of that first level. Seriously, grab anyone who says they want Crash for Smash and ask them to name you any level other than Insanity Beach. Now, of course, I'm sure there are lots of Crash fans who can answer that and who have genuinely beat the game and who love Crash from the bottom of their cold black heart, but he's just not as iconic as he's made out to be. I mean, I could go on, but I think I've made my point. If I'm wrong though, go ahead, feel free to bully me all you'd like. But if we're going to talk about an iconic character from the PlayStation with audiences both in the US and Japan, I think we should look at Lara Croft, who I will put under... Where is Lara? Where is Lara? I know she's over here somewhere. There you are. Also unlikely. So why is she unlikely? She's like the ultimate female icon in video games, and we need more female representation, right? Well, let me tell you a little something about Nintendo. They're not about to add a character just because of their gender, their color, or anything else like that. They just care about the character's game and how well they would fit in Smash Ultimate. Honestly, I think the biggest thing that Lara has going against her is her potential moveset. Now, you may not believe this, but I'm not actually Sakurai. Like, I can't think of how he would personally develop her to work in a game like Smash Ultimate. If he can think of something cool, then I think she might have a legitimate shot, but there are also other characters who might just be a better fit for Smash Ultimate's demographic. But you know what, let's just keep going with Western characters, because I think most of them have the same logic behind them. Ratchet and Clank. They are dead, because only people in the West know about them. Doomslayer is dead, because they're only popular in the West. Rayman is dead, because despite what you may think, he's only popular in the West. Heavy weapons guy. Dead, because, first of all, he doesn't fit in Smash Ultimate. I know a lot of people want Heavy in the game, but nobody takes him that seriously, and he just doesn't fit the Smash Ultimate kind of gameplay, and plus there's the fact that he's only popular in the West. Okay, here we go. Jonesy from Fortnite. Surely he's dead too, right? Actually, no. I'm going to put him right here under unlikely. Now, this may surprise you, but Fortnite is actually huge in Japan. Like, up there with Pokemon kind of huge. The popularity, if I'm being honest, has probably died down over there, kind of like it has over here. But there's a good chance that when Sakurai and Nintendo were making their own list, that Jonesy might have been a legitimate possibility. So then, if he was a legitimate possibility, why is he this far down? Well, that's for two reasons. The first reason is that I'm not exactly sure how well the Fortnite demographic fits in with the Smash Ultimate demographic. I think there might be two completely separate audiences there, but I don't know that for sure. The second reason is, now if I understand this correctly, Epic Games and Nintendo have actually tried to collaborate in the past, but were unable to come to any agreements between the two of them. So basically, Epic Games tried to get Samus Aran into Fortnite, and Nintendo was like, oh yeah, sure, go ahead. Oh, but her outfit can only be visible for people playing on Nintendo consoles, and if they're playing on something else like an Xbox or the PC or something, she has to look like the default skin for all those consoles for anyone else. So naturally, Epic Games didn't agree to that, so now Samus isn't in Fortnite. I don't know if that would impact any of their other deals, but I'm just going to put Jonesy here in the unlikely category, because he's just, to me, at this point, he's just unlikely. Okay, so as you can see, I deconfirmed a whole bunch of Western characters, but are there any Japanese characters who I can deconfirm? Yes, but there are not as many. The only two who I would deconfirm for similar reasons are Reimu from Touhou and Arl from Puyo Puyo. So, same logic as before. I think Sakurai and Nintendo want to make it a more global character, and Reimu and Arl are pretty much only popular in Japan, with moderate exceptions. So, think about it. Have you ever played Puyo Puyo? Have you ever played Touhou? My guess is that not as many people raised their hands as they would for Crash or Sora, but in Japan it might be a little bit different. But they're just not global characters, you know. If it's going to be the last character is really going to be the punchline to Smash Ultimate, I don't think it's going to be like one of those characters who are popular specifically in the eastern part of the world. And I think I'm done deconfirming characters for the moment. Everyone so far, as you can see, has either been unlikely or dead. So let's add someone from another tier. How about good old Eggman? Where am I going to put Dr. Robotnik? I will say that he is somewhat likely. Now, do I think he'll get in? No. Still though, out of all these characters, Eggman might just have a bigger chance than almost anybody. He comes from an extremely iconic game that's globally recognized and has one playable character right now, just one. Plus, he doesn't exactly have anything going against him, at least not like an assist trophy or a Mii costume. Now, am I saying that assist trophies and Mii costumes deconfirm characters? Yes. Yes, I am. So that means that Shantae is dead. That means that Waluigi is dead. That means that Dixie Kong is dead, not because she has a Mii costume, but because she's stupid. And that means that Tails is unlikely. Now, the chances are very high that Tails is also deconfirmed, but if any character gets both a DLC Mii costume and a playable character, I think it would be Tails. It has been forever since his DLC costume came out, and he has everything going for him that Robotnik has. Still extremely unlikely, but I don't know if it's totally impossible, at least not as much as the other Mii costumes. Okay, so who do you want to see next? Shout out who you want to see next. I think I heard Jibanyan in there, so let's get Jibanyan next. So he is going under meh. I want to say probably not, even though Yokai Watch is big. It's not like Pokemon big, but it's still in the mix. I won't count Jibanyan out. And yes, I realized I just said that Jibanyan, a freaking cartoon cat ghost, has more of a chance than Sora, Crash, and Master Chief. But still, all of my aforementioned points still stand. Oh, and while I'm thinking about it, I don't think we're going to get 2 Bandai Namco reps in a row, so that counts out Nightmare, Yuri Lowell, and I hate to do this, it hurts, Agumon or any Digimon rep. There is a chance we see 2 Bamco reps in a row, but I don't think so. I think the chances of that is basically 0. So how about Akira Howard from Astral Chain? So here's some interesting gymnastics for you. I'm going to put him in the unlikely category, and here's why. So this is going over a couple different factors, so you'll need to strap in for this one. You good? You safe? So, when Sakurai gave us the latest Mii Wave, he said that he wanted to make those Miis playable characters in Smash. Now, that to me means that if they're a DLC Mii costume, they're automatically deconfirmed. Now, earlier in the Fighters Pass, we got Pyra and Mythra, because Sakurai said he tried using Rex and Pyra, but it was just too difficult to implement. If you remember, if you bought the first Fighters Pass as a whole, you got the Rex Mii costume, which shows me that they had all of their characters for Fighters Pass 2 picked out before they even released Joker. I know Sakurai said that the characters for Fighters Pass 2 were already picked out, but I think this gives us a better timeline. If everything I just said is correct, then that means that the characters for Fighters Pass 2 were all decided before or during 2018, before Astral Chain came out. Boom! How's that logic for you? But as you can probably guess, I went through a lot of mental gymnastics to get to that conclusion, so I'm going to put them as unlikely. Astral Chain is still a huge game, and Legions would be freaking fantastic, so hopefully I'm wrong. If they don't end up going with Sora, I am hoping that we still get Akira Howard. And you know what? While I'm thinking about Square Enix, let's go over some Square Enix reps. So first off is Neku, which I'm going to put under meh. It would basically just be Nintendo saying, sorry, we couldn't get Sora, so here's the next best thing. But The World Ends With You is still pretty big in both parts of the world, so I'd give them a fair shot. I won't necessarily count them out. As for Chrono and 2B, however, I am going to put them both in dead. So the reason for that is that, I hope I don't come off strong here, the reason for that is that they're basically just clones of Hero and Sephiroth, respectively. I get that they're not. I get that they're totally different, but when it comes to aesthetic and overall style of the characters, they're just too similar. I think Nintendo and Sakurai are looking for more diversity in a visual way, if nothing else. But when you think of black clothes, white hair, and a big sword, you think of Sephiroth more than you think of 2B. If you think of Goku with a sword, you think of Hero more than Chrono. Speaking of which, I would make the same argument with Ryu Hayabusa. I know, totally different. Ryu is a ninja whereas Sephiroth is a one-winged angel. I still think their characters are close enough to where Nintendo and Sakurai would say, well, we already have... I think that Nintendo and Sakurai would say, well, we already have Sephiroth, we should just pick someone else. Now, taking that same logic to the extreme, I'm going to do the same thing with another character. Again, I don't want to do this, but I have to. Phoenix Wright. So, again, I'm taking that logic to the extreme. I think that Kazuya deconfirmed Phoenix Wright. Now, if you put Phoenix Wright directly next to Kazuya in a suit, you almost won't be able to tell which is which. Now, why would something so insignificant like that deconfirm a character like Phoenix? Remember, Phoenix has a huge fan base with a global audience who currently has literally no representation in Smash, not even a freaking spirit. I just think that if Phoenix was planned, Sakurai would look at Kazuya in a suit and say, you know, if we're really about to add Phoenix Wright, maybe this isn't the best idea. I know Kazuya wears a suit in his game, like I understand that, but I still think that Sakurai would be hesitant to add skin like a business suit, at least the same kind that Kazuya has, with the hairstyle that he has, all that package, if Phoenix Wright was literally the next character to be on the way. Plus, what would Phoenix Wright's moveset be? I know that's, not exactly the best way to say I think this character is deconfirmed, because I know that Sakurai can do wonders, but that is something that Sakurai has brought up, that he wants to make sure that he can do the moveset justice for each character. So I think that it's still weird how he doesn't have a spirit or any representation in Smash, but I think at this point we should consider Phoenix Wright dead. So why don't we talk about a Pokemon character next? Let's do that. A Pokemon character I think would be unlikely. So going back to a point I made before, a Pokemon rep's opportunity has come and gone. With this much pressure on the last fighter, I don't think it'll be a Pokemon character. I think Sakurai has specifically built this last character up to be a huge reveal, so I would hope that he's going to give us someone better than Kazuya. I'll just leave it at that. Okay, how about a Shin Megami Tensei rep? I would say that's somewhat likely. More popular in Japan than the West, but I think that Nintendo would still add a character like this because the series is popular enough in the West to justify it. Remember, Smash Ultimate is made in Japan by Japanese people with a primarily Japanese audience in mind. They're allowed to skew towards their demographic at least a little bit. Plus, it was designed by Atlus, who created Joker, so we'd be getting all the developers from the first pass except for the developers of SNK. How about some Nintendo characters? Waddle Dee. Dead. Literally, just because he's what I would call a base game character. He doesn't provide enough value to pay extra money to add to the roster. Pokey is unlikely. Now, I think his character wouldn't exactly fit in the environment the same as the other fighters. I think it would be kind of clunky. He just doesn't fit in the same kind of environment as everyone else. And, putting my own personal bias in there, I would prefer Gygus anyway. Impa is somewhat likely. But this also goes for the champions as well. Zelda is huge all over the world. Zelda is a giant in the Nintendo world. People would love a Zelda rep. The only reason Impa isn't in the most likely category is because Impa herself isn't as important as, say, Zelda, Link, or Ganondorf. Impa's important, nobody's arguing that. I just wonder if she's big enough to be the final character. And finally, for Nintendo characters, we have the Octolings, which I think would be, just below Impa. The Octolings have basically the same argument as with Impa, but as huge as Splatoon is, it's not nearly as big as Zelda. I would personally prefer to see the Octolings to Impa myself, but I doubt we'd see another Splatoon rep before getting another Zelda rep. I'm just going to do Scorpion next. I think he's dead. Jim. One of the biggest reasons for Mortal Kombat's success is the blood, which has no place in Smash Ultimate. He comes from a different demographic. Plus, we just barely got a fighting game character, so I just don't see any way for Scorpion to get in as anything other than maybe a Mii costume. Oh wait, I just realized Dante's here. Dead. Yeah, he should have been dead with the other Mii costumes. Sorry. My bad. So next, I'm going to choose Leon Kennedy, and to me, he would be unlikely. I'm going to put him right there next to Lara Croft for pretty much the same reason. I just don't know what Sakurai would be able to do with him. And I'm not sure how much his demographic meshes with Smash Ultimate. If he got in, that would be cool, but if I had to make a guess, I'd say probably not going to happen. So let's talk about Danganronpa next. Just any character from the Danganronpa series. It doesn't need to be Monokuma. My personal choice would be Makoto Naegi. I think there are lots of reps they could go with. And now for a Danganronpa rep in general, I say the chances of that are most likely. So, very likely at the least. I mean, at least compared to the other characters on the list. Danganronpa is a ginormous hit with currently 0 representation in Smash Ultimate. We've got Danganronpa coming to the Switch, which was announced at E3 in the Nintendo section. Now, I don't think that they're doing this to promote the game, I just think that this fact tells us that Nintendo has good relations with Spike Chunsoft. So this is a character that also not a lot of people are expecting. It would be, in my opinion, as big as the Joker reveal. It just makes a lot of sense for Nintendo to go this route and to get a Danganronpa character into Smash. I don't know how many people feel that way like me, but I feel like a Danganronpa rep would be the best choice out of all of these characters. And finally, we have a character that nobody is talking about. I don't think anyone besides myself has even brought up Sigma as a possibility. But you know what? I'm going to take a risk on him. I'm putting him right up here next to the Eggman. Now, for those of you who don't know, Sigma is the main antagonist for the Mega Man X series. He's not as popular as Eggman, but his meta allows for potentially way more tools that he could use in a fighting game than what Dr. Robotnik has. I see the biggest asset of Dr. Robotnik being his Eggmobile, kind of like what Bowser Jr. has. But if you take away that, what does he have? Like a gun? I don't know, maybe he has a Glock in his belt or something? Sigma can use all of the abilities from the Mega Man X series, just like what Mega Man can do from his original NES games. Plus, Sigma is a swordie, kind of, technically, if you look at the original source material, and you know how much Nintendo loves those. And yeah, that would be it. Now, I probably put a character you wanted in the dead or unlikely tier, but I want you to look at this list and honestly think about it. I put a total of 8 characters as even having a mediocre chance of getting in. Compare those to the characters in the bottom 2 tiers. Which sections do you believe looks more like a section Nintendo would choose from? Based on all the DLC characters that we've gotten so far, based on all the patterns we've seen, do you believe that I'm right? Or does the common speculation of Crash and Master Chief have more credibility? Again, I'm going to guess that the last fighter won't be any of these characters, and that Nintendo will give us something crazy like flipping Carrie Fernandez from Castlevania. Or maybe not someone like as obscure as that, but like Shy Guy or Dry Bones, or like Pearl and Marina friggin' Sims. I don't know, I'm just spitballing at this point. But honestly though, what seems more realistic? Do you think that I'm sleeping on someone in the bottom tiers? Is there anyone I didn't mention that you think has a viable shot? Let me know in the comments, and I'll see you guys next time.